Now, protest is taking place today near one of Poland's only open border crossings with Belarus. Belarusian opposition activists are demanding Poland cut trade ties with the Lukashenko regime and seal the border. Now, the activists desire the release of political prisoners being held by the regime in Minsk. The EU has also stepped up its sanctions against the Kremlin-friendly ally in the last week. Now, to discuss the latest and what it could mean for the region, I'm joined by Zmicier Mitskevich, a journalist from Belsat TV. Welcome to the program. Good to have you.
Hello, everyone.
Now, Mr. Mitskevich, let's get grounded here. We had our very own reporter at that border today, and also some sound bites from an opposition leader there, as well as a truck driver. Let's just hear what they had to say and roll that now for our audience.
We not organize this line. This line organized Lukashenko during his policy, because now this line is about 25 hours from one side and another side the same situation. Because if Lukashenko will continue the same, this line will be bigger. This is not for us, these questions. I think this guys must ask Lukashenko why this line is so big on the border between Belarus and Poland.
Trade between Poland and Belarus was, is, and will probably always be. This is the only active border crossing between these two countries. We have even called for more border crossings to be opened, but because of the situation, the migrants, this is impossible at the moment. We are not against trade, we are supportive of it. I want to stress that I want carriers, mainly from the so-called Eastern Bloc, to make a living from transporting goods between Belarus and Poland.
So there we have two very different opinions there, trade and then also human rights. So we can't seem to really have both. What do you make of those statements and of this ongoing protest there?
I would say that now it is really important to make stress on what is happening here, because as we see that Lukashenko already stepped back and started to release political prisoners. We see that already 7 of them were released yesterday. We know that, of course, this is not like step of humanism, something like that, like Lukashenko wants to present it. But we see that this is clear reaction on what China told him, because we see that this is the direct result of Polish foreign minister visit to China, because we see that Poland can carry a successful pressure on this regime, because, they just told China that it's your Lukashenko, just deal with it, because we have problems on the border, so do something, and or we'll just close the border and that's it. Mm-hmm. And really, this is very important measure. If you just close this border for goods with Belarus and from other countries, I think that the next week you're going to have a very different situation in Belarus, because China will try to deal with this, because, they're not interested in these kind of things. And from my point of view, this is quite a good instrument of influencing the situation, because if you just, you show that you're ready to do something, because Lukashenko is just used to absence of some, critical reaction to his government. So that's why he's just doing what he's doing. And if he really sees a harsh reaction, if he sees that he has trouble because of his policy, especially foreign policy, then I suppose that, something going to change, because we see that no Russia or China are interested in this closing of the border. So definitely there will be some influence on the situation.
Right, influence for sure. But you mentioned a few prisoners were released in the last couple of days. This amnesty, I think it was around 5 to 7. I mean, these were special cases, right? I mean, we're still looking at, I think, over 1,400 political prisoners in Belarus, including Mr. Poczobut, who is that activist and journalist, Polish-Belarusian activist, who's still being imprisoned for, I think, now 3 years without any sign that that will change. So I question I think the intentions here, that is this really Mr. Lukashenko now finally releasing prisoners, or is this something else? How do you interpret that from those last couple of days?
As I've just told, it's reaction on what China told him. because they told that, you need to do something, and he's trying to pretend at least that he's doing something. So we see that, this flow of migrants on the border became smaller, so we don't see the storms of the border right now. So we see that this policy is working. I'm not thinking that this is, humanism of Lukashenko or like goodwill or something. We see that he only let out 7 people, but these days another 8 political prisoners got their terms. So, it's just nothing. So we should try to press on him more in order to get the real result, not just, him pretending to do something. So he doesn't want to show that he's weak, but I think that if you have real instruments on pressing him, like, for example, sanctions, because at some point European sanctions just are not carried out successfully. Of course, in some spheres they do work, and this is already fine. But, for example, like, we should target in Lukashenko regime, not targeting people. So that's why I suppose that really this kind of threats and this kind of policy, harsh policy against him, will really work. Because previously there were only concessions, negotiations, and so on and so forth. But now we deal with the regime who is the co-aggressor in the war against Ukraine, who's making his economy working on Russia and also supporting this Russian aggression, who's openly accusing European states of being Nazi or something like that. So I suppose that, what he needs is really just punching the face in order to understand the real situation he is now.
Yeah, but it gets complicated as well, because I think we have this, you mentioned the European Union also trying to address this. We've had that 14th package of sanctions, which aims to close in what the European, now the former Council presidency have said is trying to close the biggest loophole there was, and namely that is Belarus. But at the same time, as we've heard from that Polish driver on the border today, it does come at an economic cost. Now, I'm just wondering how you respond to that. I mean, the kind of trade levels, as you said already, it's one of the only ways, I think, coming still through China. If we're looking at the Belt and Road Initiative, if we're going through Ukraine, that's closed. Belarus is the only way on. Is this going to have an impact on the economy? How much will the loss be, and can Poland stomach that loss?
I don't think that it will be a problem for European Union or Poland. If you say, that you close the border, then it's China's problem. Because just look at the level of the number of goods brought from one side to another. These railway trucks and these carriers are getting back to China, and they're empty, basically. So, it will be a problem of China. So that's why it is working, because this is a problem of China. If their goods are not getting into Europe, okay, maybe European customers want use so many goods from AliExpress. Okay, yeah, but China will need money. That will be their problem, that their goods are not getting into Europe. So that will be time for them to act. We already see that they're in action, so they're telling Lukashenko to do something. So, it is very simple. It's not so complicated. If you're tough, so you're tough in politics, and you're just, getting to your goals, and that's it. So I don't believe that this is, a big problem. Of course, it will cause some problems for European economy, but it won't be so big as it will be in China. Because in China, these kind of problems going to be much bigger. That's why they will be much more interested in stabilization situation in Belarus, and they have a lot of different leverages on this situation. So I think that this will be purely the the point of negotiation between European Union and China, and that's it.
Well, you said you have to be tough, but at the same time, it's taken so long for this loophole to finally try to be closed. We still have rail traffic going through. I mean, we're looking at that one final crossing here, the freight axis crossing, 40 kilometers of a queue on both sides of the border here. So obviously there is still, although it might be negligible, there is still trade flow between them. I'm just curious, we addressed China already. We know that today in Kazakhstan there's the SCO meeting right now. I believe Lukashenko is also there. So do you sense perhaps here more leverage that Beijing will push, that it will get its way, that Lukashenko will be squeezed more by Xi Jinping to be a little bit more fair, to move away from Russia in all this? Or is that too much to hope for?
I don't think that China gonna ask Lukashenko to move from Russia, but they will ask him to at least to do something to stabilize situation. Of course, they don't understand this kind of the special politics that we have in Belarus, but still, they will ask him to at least show something, show some step forward and closer to European Union, because he doesn't want this border to be closed at all. So that's why I believe that this kind of meeting can be successful and it can be fruitful, yeah. But at the same time, if we speak about this border, we also should say that closing the border crossings for usual people gives nothing. It only is good for Lukashenko because, then the people won't just go to Poland and that's it. And also he doesn't have then so many problems. So I think that, border crossings for people are really essential, but the crossing border for the goods is really a big problem because it's not also the problem of the usual goods. It's also a problem of Lukashenko smuggling, because his state companies are involved in organized smuggling of alcohol and cigarettes to the territory of European Union. It's state organized, basically. So you also pose the possibilities of state organized smuggling into the European Union. But I don't see a lot of discussions about that in Polish media, for example. Which for me is quite strange because this is really a very important point. Because closing the smuggling routes is really very, very important. Because Lukashenko also has a lot of profit because of that. For example, his tobacco factories are producing special cigarettes for that. And my colleagues did a lot of investigations on that. And we also see that some European sanctions are still not working because they're not blocked. Because, for example, the beneficiaries of the companies that are under control of Lukashenko family re-registered these companies to their former directors, and these companies continue to operate, and everything's fine. And this information can be found in open sources. So this is a problem. So this is an institutional problem that European Union has to deal with. So I believe that this is, the key to this problem, just to be very substantial, to be top and just to follow what
substantial, yes, substantial is definitely something that I think European sanctions, that could be argued that they are not as substantial as they should be. We're on the 14th package, as you said, and I think, as you just pointed out, there are still loopholes yet to address, but we'll have to save those issues for another day on the topic of Belarus. Thank you so much. That was Zmicier Mitskevich, journalist from Belsat TV. Really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.